Okay, so big day today. Big day today. 5 nights at Freddy's. I'm sorry about this awful system I got going. I don't have like a camera or anything. This is my phone. You could probably tell based on the quality. 5 nights at Freddy's. That's tonight. As of right now, it's 3:30, I think, p.m. and I am seeing the 11 o'clock. So we have, this is a terrible angle. I am so sorry. So we will meet back when I get to my house. I got like a 2.5 hour drive, so I'm gonna get home at like 6:30, something like that. I am hyped beyond belief for this. I've never driven this long. I hate driving, I'll be honest, but this is worth it. This is a journey that it's worth. For this 2.5 hour journey, I have made a playlist of about 50 songs, should get me through the whole thing. All FNAF songs by like DA Games, Living Tombstone, stuff like that. Stuff that I listened to when I was a kid. I might get tired of this music after like an hour, maybe. I will get back to you when I'm at home. See you in like 3 seconds. Do a cool transition or something, maybe. All right, so it's like 8 o'clock, maybe. About 3 hours till I go see the movie. About 2 hours till I leave to go to the theater. I'm excited. I'm pretty excited. This is not a flattering shot, but it's fine. You know, this movie is very special to me and all of my friends. Like me specifically, I've been waiting 8 years for this, right? I have obsessed over this game twice in my life. And I'm not proud to admit it, but I'll admit it. Yes, I obsessed over it. So this is like as big as Avengers Endgame for me. I don't know how it's gonna be. From what I've heard, it's good. It's very good, from what I've heard. But I'm worried, right? This is Scott Cawthon that was the main writer, and while he's been able to write this story, and you know, it's not a terrible story, you know, this is his first this is his first, like, film writing debut, right? So I don't know if the dialogue is going to flow well, or if, like, the story might be lacking in a few parts, right? But I think overall it's going to be good.
Yo, that movie was awful!
We just made it to the theater, got the merch on. Say hi, guys. Hi. We're about to see Peak. As you saw in the last clip, my sister said it was bad. So it's probably gonna be dog shit. So I'm hyped. I've seen it 4 times now. Now the question we're all wondering, was 5 Nights at Freddy's any good? That's a tough question to answer, I'm not gonna lie. It's a very hard question. Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I'm gonna do my non-spoiler, like, real quick review, like, give you the rating, give you some of the non-spoiler stuff that I liked. Then we're gonna go right into it. I got a lot to say. I got some theories I want to put out there. Maybe some story time. I don't know. I went to go see the movie. You saw all of that already. Yeah, you got the lore. My audience wasn't as lively as I thought it was gonna be, which was probably the worst part about the film, in all honesty, was that people weren't like, yeah, Freddy, you know? So the movie, I think, I've seen it 4 times now. It was definitely a completely different experience watching it the second time, because I then understood, like, different things. This is definitely a movie you want to rewatch if you're a fan, because you'll catch things. And I like that. I really do like that. Good, cohesive storytelling. So I would give the movie a 7.5 out of 10. All right. For me personally, now I do understand where the critics are coming from, because let's say hypothetically this was a standalone film with no games, no books, nothing. Nothing came before. This was just a standalone movie. Let's say that were the case. This movie would be, for lack of a better term, kinda dog shit. So I do see where the critics are coming from. Now, I thought the story itself was pretty good. The stuff they added to make it more of a story was kind of like surface level basic stuff, except for one part which I thought was very interesting, that I won't spoil it. One of the main plot lines was just pretty, the whole concept was pretty interesting. Some of the characters were kind of bad, and I don't mean like bad in like a ooh, they bad. No, I mean like bad acting. Okay, not terrible acting, I can't really hate, but I'm not gonna lie, there was one kid in the film that gave a better performance than like half of the adults, so kind of wild. But you know, given the $25 million budget, that's a pretty decent movie, you know? The animatronics looked phenomenal. Parts where they were in the restaurant, I think those were like the best parts of the film. Just, it was really interesting to see all the characters, you know? I got a lot to talk about, so I'm gonna get into spoilers. I guess I'll go through my experience with the film, the theater experience, and all that. So I will admit, I did not have high hopes going into this film. I was excited because I've been following this series for 9 years. That's a big chunk of my life. That's about half of my life. I have had a phase, FNAF phase twice. We might have a third one. We might have a third phase after this, but I don't know. I'll probably end up watching this film a few more times, because I genuinely did really like what they were doing with it. Let's talk about the theater experience. We walking in. I wanted to get the Universal promotion, like Freddy's Pizza from my AMC theaters, but unfortunately, they didn't have it. Kind of a terrible start to the night, but we got to the theater. We were all hyping up, then like 30 minutes of trailer. We got by 30 minutes of trailers for shit that I didn't even care of. 2 water-based movies, Aquaman and then some horror movie about a pool. I don't care. I didn't care. I was getting fed up. And then the beautiful Universal logo coming into frame with the little static. I really liked the static. I thought they were going to do more with that sequence, but the static was good enough. And then we get to the cold open, and spoilers. If I forgot to mention that somehow. Spoilers. I really did like the cold open, and I heard that Markiplier was supposed to be in the cold open, and honestly, yeah, that would have been kind of cool, but I'm completely fine with how it ended up. You know, introducing the atmosphere, introducing Foxy, that was pretty freaking cool. His little da-da-dum-dum-dum. That was freaking awesome. When he started singing, I knew I was in for a treat. And yeah, it was a treat. And then the opening sequence. The 8-bit opening sequence showing the murder of the 5 original kids was gas. Straight, unapologetic gas. The song was alright too. Starting off with an 8-bit mini game was hard. That was a great decision, and I really liked bringing that part of the games into at least part of the film. They don't come back, but you know, it was a perfect use of their intro sequence, was doing that. And then after that, we meet Mike, his sister. We learn about his dream sequence stuff that I will get into. That's the part of the story that I really, really liked, like that new stuff. That one dream, like, plotline was really, really cool. We get introduced to Matthew Lillard, which I will talk about all of their characters. Eventually, Vanessa too. I will talk about all the characters, like the major ones. People break in, people die. Oh my god, there's so much to talk about. It's crazy. And I did give this a 7.5. I am really, you know, praising this movie. But from a movie standpoint, it is a mess. The plot is very simple and easy to follow, but at the same time, if you don't know what you're getting into with this movie, you're gonna be like scratching your head half the time. What does any of this mean? You're gonna hear some of the bad acting, you're gonna be like, oof. They could have used a retake on that one. You're gonna see the twist coming from a mile away, like one of my roommates did when we watched it last night, who isn't a Five Nights at Freddy's fan, like, at all, doesn't know anything about it. It's a very standard movie. I think a 5 out of 10 is like the experience rating for an average person. An average person's gonna go into that film and be like, yeah, it's like an average film, 5 out of 10, and that's fine. But I loved it. So I kind of want to talk about the characters a little bit. I do have a list of other stuff to talk about, and I will get into that. But I want to talk about the characters first. Mike, though, there's not a lot to say about Mike. His plotline was pretty good, I would say. It was just probably one of the better parts of the film, was his plotline. The main three were pretty good, and I don't mean Abby in the main three. She was alright. It was a kid, it was a child actor, so I'm not gonna criticize this child that heavily on their acting ability, because it honestly wasn't that bad for like a 10-year-old or something, however old she is. I think Josh Hutcherson pulled off the look especially well. I think probably mid-20s guy who's in charge of looking after his sister after his parents' death. I think they're just out of the picture. I know his mom died. Dad probably killed himself or something. I shouldn't say that. I'm sorry. He's just out of the picture. And then his brother kidnapped. So he has the trauma from that. He's trying to juggle his like anger episodes, like what happened in the mall when he beat that guy's father up for thinking that, oh my God, he's kidnapping this child. I gotta beat the crap out of him, which, sure, kind of rushed. I mean, it was good. I liked the trauma aspect. I liked how he thought very little of himself throughout the film. He was like really determined to figure out what happened to his brother, because it was just kind of taking up his entire brain for most of the movie. And I didn't think that was a bad aspect of his character. At the end of the day, his character is really kind of just tragic. Very, very bad story. Sorry, let me rephrase. A very emotional story, and I think Josh Hutcherson handled the tragedy of that character very well. As for Abby, I think Twitter has coined her as autistic at this point, which, sure, definitely neurodivergent. She acted the exact way that I would assume a 10-year-old would in the scenario that she was put in. Can't really say more about that. Kind of interesting, though, that she saw ghosts, but I see no problem with that plotline. Now, the good stuff is in regards to the Afton family, in my opinion. And when I say Afton family, I am not talking about the games. If you haven't seen the film, I don't know why you've gotten to this point, but if you haven't seen the film, I'm not talking about the games. I'm talking about the movie universe Afton family, which is Vanessa and William. So I'm going to touch on William first, because we do meet him first technically as Steve Raglan. Now, I thought Matthew Lillard's portrayal of both sides, the career counselor scenes and the actual like psychotic killer scenes, handled both of those very well. I really liked the little things that Lillard added that just made this guy seem mysterious. I really like how his demeanor completely changed when he noticed Mike's full name. He's sitting in his chair, leaning back, you know, he's reading the file for Mike, he's reading through it, going through, oh, you beat this guy up in a fountain, stuff like that. Like, what's your track record? I'm trying to figure out who you are, Mike And then he cuts off there. And his demeanor completely changes. He seemed to become a little nervous, which made sense in context, like rewatching the film. He did seem suspicious, so when I was first watching the film, I'm like, oh, he paused on Schmidt's name. Could it be this is his long-lost son? Because, you know, in the games, there's Michael, Elizabeth, and then the crying child are William Afton's children. I knew that going into this movie, Lillard was playing Afton, so I thought, oh, maybe that was his ex-wife's maiden name or something like that, you know? Like some kind of familial tie. And it turns out that that wasn't the case. It was simply that William Afton was the one who kidnapped Mike's brother when they were both children, which is why he recognizes the name. And I just really, the amount of cohesion that this story has for a Five Nights at Freddy's movie, actually, I shouldn't really say that because I honestly expected that, but the level of detail and the level of precision with some of these, some of the decisions throughout the film, story-wise, very, very well done. So I really like how, like, immediately after finding out who this Mike Schmidt guy is, he's like, you know what? I've got a job for you. Security gig. And he immediately goes into offering Freddy's. And I personally think it's like, oh, I killed this guy's brother. You know what? I could just kill him too. It's like coincidence, you know? Symmetry. There's that version of the character, and then completely different, psychotic, really, really cool psychotic, though. Like, kind of badass psychotic William Afton coming in at the end in the rabbit suit. I liked his altered voice, like, when he was wearing the suit. I like the little laugh that he did. Lucky me! Oh my god, it was just... His voice was perfect in the suit. He takes it off. Amazing, like, mask off reveal. It's phenomenal. And I will admit, some of the lines were kind of goofy. I always come back. Sorry, I didn't say it right. I always come back. I don't know. That was rushed, and also doesn't make sense in the greater span of the universe, because I'm pretty sure he hasn't died or cheated death at this point. So why would he say that? I know it was just a small little reference, but like, in context, it doesn't really make any sense. But overall, I think Lillard was a, like, really good choice. And speaking of Afton, I really, really liked Vanessa, though she was bipolar. I don't know. There was one scene in particular that didn't make any sense, and it was the fort scene, which I'll talk about a little bit, like, right after this, probably. In the greater context of the film, she is just, like, the lore expert, the Matt Pat equivalent, as a character in the film, which I thought was still done. It made sense. When the twist came around, it ended up making sense. If you don't know, she is William Afton's daughter, which doesn't make sense to someone who was, you know, a fan of the games. But I can't say that I hated it. I actually really liked that twist. But while I was watching the movie for the first time, I was thinking to myself, like, that's not a great twist. That's a twist that you can call during that scene before she says it. Like, that's something you can easily predict. And my theory was proven right. While watching it for the fourth time with my roommates. Literally a minute before it was revealed, he's like, oh, she's gonna be the killer's daughter. But I didn't know that. I wasn't expecting it even remotely, because in the games, Michael is theorized to be Afton's son. So, you know, I did do some research, though, and it turns out that in the mobile game, which I don't care about that game, apparently in that game, in the, like, the special emails, Vanessa uses an A as her last name. So maybe her name is actually Afton, and I am just stupid, and I just didn't know that. And I do think that because of that, like, twist, she's a cop, right? So I'm assuming that she became a cop for one of two reasons. Both of them could be likely, but I think she became a cop to either, like, move away from her past and become a better person, so being a law-abiding citizen, or she became a cop because Afton made her, so William would have, like, an in with the police department. So it would be easier to cover up his crimes. It would be easy to get rid of documents and evidence and stuff. And just having someone on the inside, I feel like would help a serial killer like William, you know, with the pizzeria and stuff. And it was like weird concept. I don't really know, but I think there is a greater reason why she became a cop, and it wasn't simply because, oh, let's just make her a cop because it might make sense. I think there is a greater reason. How about we talk about the animatronics now? Now, I could go into their design, but I think everyone has praised their designs already, so I'm not going to elaborate on that. But what I will elaborate on is the way they acted. Everything they did made sense in context. From them being scary and killing people to them building the fort. So obviously they act very different in the presence of adults versus children. And I don't know if it was an intended callback, but I think the way they acted is a reference to FNAF 2's, I think it was Phone Call from Phone Guy, where he talks about how the animatronics are real playful and nice with the kids, but if there's like an adult, they just stare. They monitor. And they're pretty aggressive, you know, towards actual adults in universe. I think that makes sense because in the film they're very playful with Abby, but they're very hesitant to be nice to Mike at all. Like, even when Abby's like, these are my friends, and she shows Mike meets all of them, they don't move. Like, Freddy does start walking towards Mike to like attack him, I think, or threaten him, but then once Abby's like, oh, he's my brother, he just stares. They all just stare at him. I don't know if that was an intended callback, but if it was a callback, it was a pretty good one. Or a good reference, at least. I did like the fort building montage, I will be honest, because it showed an aspect of the characters and the world that we don't really see. The animatronics specifically are haunted by children. You guys know that they're haunted by children, right? So they're haunted by children. Let's think about this real quick. They're children in the presence of another child that wants to build a fort, have some fun, play a little bit. What do you think a child's gonna do in that scenario? No, they're not gonna murder the other child. Like that's what people wanted. They're gonna indulge a little bit. They're gonna play a little bit. Some of you fake FNAF fans are really up in arms about this scene because they don't act scary. They don't act game accurate. They're children. The gameplay is you sitting in an office, so of course you're not going to see stuff like this in the games. Do bad bitches not f with a little bit of playing? I will say that the characters were scary when they needed to be, which was good. Very good. Night 5 and nights 1 and 2, very good use of the animatronics. Speaking of good use of the animatronics, people are also actually insane. And you might be wondering, what the hell am I talking about? I'm talking about the puppet. Now, people claim that when Mike is looking into the curtain and he shines his flashlight over to Chica, that there's something behind her that looks like the puppet. I'm going to show you guys some images to disprove that that is not the puppet. That is a metal light, a metal lamp pointed towards Chica that, since it's metal, the light from the flashlight is hitting it and reflecting into the camera in such a way that looks like eyes. Someone who watches this video, go look investigate these scenes, because if the puppet's going to be anywhere, it's going to be in scenes where there are people stuffed inside of animatronics or being stuffed inside of animatronics. So either the scene where Mike is getting the blades spinning in his face and he sees all the dead bodies, look through that scene, brighten it up, see if the puppet's there. If not, go to the scene where Abby is about to be spring locked and look for the puppet, because the puppet in the games was the one that, gave the life to the animatronics, allowed the spirits to inhabit those bodies and use them. So if the puppet's going to be anywhere, it's going to be in scenes where someone is about to be killed in an animatronic, or the puppet would need to give gifts, give life. If for lack of a better explanation. Because I know the puppet song is at the end and there's the words "come find me," and I think people believe that it ties into the puppet. And if it does, I'd check those scenes specifically. Because if the puppet's going to be anywhere, it's going to be in that back room. And I might be very wrong. The puppet might not even be in the film, or might be in a completely different scene. Or the "come find me" could literally just apply to, like, Golden Freddy, or "come find me, come find William Afton, who's locked in this room." It could mean anything. But if it is the puppet and people are right, they're not looking in the right place, I don't. But I've seen the movie 4 times now, and I've watched that scene intently 3 times, and the way the reflections look and do not work the way that the puppet's entire face would, because the mask would also be illuminated. I'm very sorry if this is a long video, but I have a lot more to talk about. I'm gonna get into like the Easter eggs and the little things in the next recording, in the next section. Like, not all of them, but some of the ones that I thought were the most notable. And then I'm gonna go into a little bit of theorizing. There's gonna be a long ass recording to get through, and I apologize, guys. I really do, but I am passionate about this movie, and I might do a stream just talking about the movie. That could be fun. Alright, so now I kind of just want to walk through like the film itself, talk about little Easter eggs that I noticed upon my 4 rewatches, as well as little details in like the story that don't really connect to the plot of the games per se, but they're just like really cool details in the film that add to the cohesion of the overall narrative that I thought was incredible. Just incredible. Like I said, the movie starts out with the cold open, and, Fox just the da-da-dum-dum, and then there's the 8-bit minigames. I already talked about that, which so many little things in those scenes, just, incredible. incredible. And then we meet Mike, right? He's waking up, he's doing his daily routine stuff, and on his little nightstand, there's the Dream Theory book, which already hitting us with the big Easter eggs. Because if you don't know, Dream Theory was theorized when FNAF 4 was in its prime hype. The game came out, people are playing it. MatPat does a theory, Dream Theory. First 3 games are all dreams based on like things like the grandfather clock that make it seem like, oh my god, these could have been a child's dreams. I think we found out later that that wasn't the case. I'm not 100% sure, but it was a really nice nod to it. And also Dream Theory applies to Mike's entire experience throughout the film, like what he's looking for in his memories when he dreams, and how he communicates with the ghosts and stuff. That was just really, really cool. Mike goes to the Rainbow from FNAF World's ice cream shop, sees a kid get kidnapped, and by kidnapped, I mean taken by his own father. So Mike just beats up some guy's father, which gets him fired, and he meets with the one and only Steve Raglan. His scene is one of my favorites. I think the scene in his office is one of my favorites. The way they introduce William Afton in this scene is phenomenal. Just really liked his introduction. Mike and Abby have their little fight at home, and Mike just completely destroys Abby with that "at least I'm real" line. He goes to bed, has that dream about his brother getting taken, introduces us to the concept of that plot line, the Dream Theory plot line. After that, we meet characters such as the aunt, I forget her name, but the aunt, and Doug, the best character in the film, the lawyer Doug. Just a great addition to the cast. Mike is kind of determined to make sure he can keep custody of his sister, because that's what his aunt wants, custody of the child of his sister. So he's encouraged by a teacher, I think, to get a job. Basically, she just says, get a job. So he gets a job. After turning down the job from Steve Raglan, he goes back and asks him, hey, can I have the job? And he's like, oh yeah, the job's still in. Why? You got a change of heart? Something like that. He said something like that. Little phone guy spiel, like they talk over the phone while it shows a montage of Mike going into the building. The flip side line. I like the addition of that line, see on the flip side, because, phone guy said that in the games. So, William Afton was the phone guy in this case, which people thought was him in the games. Who knows? Maybe this proves it. Mike gets settled in, he looks around, he, does the training tape, which a cool little detail that I noticed my second time is that it looks like there is a covered up T and a Z under the name Mike on the tape. So I think that's Fritz. I think that was the name of one of the night guards. I don't remember, but I think that was like a reference to Fritz. That was kind of nice. Training tape says some of the lines, like, where fantasy and fun come to life, like some of the lines that phone guy says, which was pretty nice. He goes to sleep, sees the children in his dream this time, asks them, hey, do you happen to see that guy there? I don't think anything else happens that night. I think he just falls out of his chair and then goes home. At this point, we have already met the babysitter Max, which is a major character. Basically, at this point, Mike comes home, lets her go home, but instead of going home, Max goes to the diner, where we meet the one and only MatPat, which this was one of the few times that my theater was like,
well, that's no fun. You do realize that lunch is the most
what?
MatPat?
And then he said his line.
It's just a theory.
I don't really have words for that, because it was just such a terrible line, but it was so awesome to hear. We see Doug again. Bless that man. Max and her brother are like, let's go break into Freddy's so that Mike can lose his job. Something like that. Because they're talking to the aunt. They're in cahoots with the aunt to get the custody. So it's like, let's break into Freddy's. Because he's supposed to lock it up. It's gonna make him look bad and maybe get fired or something like that. Night 2 happens. He has the dream again with the kids. He decides to chase Foxy for some reason in the dream. And Foxy ends up cutting him in the dream and in the real world, which is kind of interesting. Did I mention the Balloon Boy jump scare? That was kind of cool. I didn't mention that, I think that was night 1. And it's this night we also meet Vanessa. Pretty cool. I actually did like her character a lot. I did mention that I liked her character a lot. So she's the policewoman that's like, you're the new night guard at Freddy's. And she just dumps a bunch of freaking lore on him. And it's like, want to see this? Boom. animatronics galore. She talks about the missing kids. After Mike locks up, that's when the people break in. The brother, Max, Hank, and some other kid. I think his name was Carl. Each of them get killed by the animatronics one by one. It's this point where the collective audience realizes that the cupcake is in fact the goat, and it is magic, because it like flies and stuff, which is kind of interesting. Hank, funny guy. I really think his death was kind of funny. The way he screamed was real silly. Max goes in, and this scene was shocking. So Max goes into the building to see what's taking so long, basically. And she sees a kid, a spirit. Just so you know that it's not a real kid. A spirit. She follows him into the back room, the parts and service room, I guess. And Freddy's just standing there. And for some dumb reason, this girl decides, I'm going to look into his maw. His giant mouth. And it's at this point, there's a couple whispers in the theater, you know. Even I'll admit I did maybe possibly say the bite of 87. Everyone was like, oh my god, the bite. Everyone was freaking out. It's like, oh my god, they're gonna do it. They're gonna do the bite. Yeah, there was a bite. There was dead silence after that scene for like a good 10 seconds. Maybe 20, maybe 30, maybe a whole minute. That was the most shocking death of the film. That day, Vanessa goes to Mike's house and is like, someone broke in. What are these? Shows like the Xanax or whatever the hell he's taking to sleep. He's like, let me explain. So they go to this river. They start talking, and I noticed this the first time I watched it. When Mike was telling his tragic story to Vanessa about his brother, I thought Vanessa's reaction was a little bit much. She looked like she was on the verge of tears. I don't know if it's just me, but like the way Mike was telling the story, I personally wouldn't have been led to tears. The reason I also like this scene so much is because I think the reason... No, I don't think. I know the reason that she reacted the way she did was because she already knew the story. She knew the story because she might not have been an accomplice, but you know, it's revealed that she had a toy airplane that was the exact same thing. She knew about the kid's death. And the reason she was acting the way she did is because she cared about Mike, I think, at this point, and is now putting the pieces together like, oh my god, my father killed this guy's brother, and now he's gonna kill him too. It just showed a little bit of her humanity, and it might not have been executed the best way, but I do think that after watching that scene a second time, I appreciate it more. And then night 3 begins. So this is the night where Mike is forced to bring Abby because the babysitter is not in the picture anymore. She's dead. So he puts Abby to bed and he just starts cleaning. And then he gets to the supply closet, notices a little bit of blood, and then out of the blue... Scariest part of the film, by the way. The Balloon Boy jump scares. I wasn't jump scared because I'm just like, I just know Five Nights Freddy. You know? After Mike cleans up and, you know, notices the blood and stuff, he decides, I'm gonna go to bed and talk to these kids again. Which he does. The main kid, Golden Freddy kid, is like, we'll help you. We'll help you figure out who killed your brother, but you gotta give us something. So Mike's like, I'll give you anything. I just need to know. Little does Mike know he's gonna find out anyway. The kids literally do not help him find out. It's while he's asleep that Abby wakes up. So she goes to the main room, and Freddy just comes walking out of the curtain. So Mike wakes up, realizes Abby's gone, runs in, and they're just standing there. All of the animatronics are just standing there. Freddy goes to attack Mike, but then is stopped by Abby, saying that, oh no, that's my brother. He chill. They're still skeptical, though. And I do firmly believe what I said earlier about like the FNAF 2 phone call and the difference in the animatronics interacting with children and people. I think that applies here. Because they do just stare at Mike. Like, dead stare at Mike. So they leave. Kind of weird. I don't really remember if anything of note happens during that day. Day 4? I don't really know. So night 4 is when... it gets a little weird. Vanessa's already there. This awful shot appears on the screen. Man, come on, Mike walks in with Abby. And then for some... weird reason, they start building a fort. the animatronics included. They all start building a fort. Animatronics get in on it, and they all start like laying down on the ground. They start playing and stuff. Bonnie goes and like dies, and then does the Terminator thumbs up. It's a goofy scene. I'll admit, it's a very goofy and nonsensical scene, but I liked it. I'll be completely honest. I really did like it because, like I said, it shows an aspect of the universe that we never get to see, and that's how the animatronics actually act. And if you're a hater of the animatronics acting like the kids that they are, there's something wrong with you. And if you think FNAF VHS was the way this movie should have gone, you are a fake fan. I'm gonna say it. FNAF VHS fans are not FNAF fans. They're fakers, and they are not real ones. So shut the fuck up. Shut up. Sorry. Little tangent there. So, while they're building the fort, Vanessa and Mike go to the storage closet. It's there where Mike finds a spring lock suit, and is gonna go touch it, but it's like, no. Don't do that, you'll hurt yourself. So she puts a broom in there, like sticks the broom in there, snaps. And, Mike has a very genuine reaction because, Vanessa has been the lore expert at this point. She knows literally everything. Why does she know everything? That's what Mike's wondering. So he gets mad at her, like, what if Abby were to find this? And her excuse is, I didn't bring her. You were just playing with her. Building a fort. What are you talking about? This is the only problem I have with the film. That's not true. That's not true. But this is one of the big problems I have with the film, and it's Vanessa's character is like bipolar or something. Not that that's a bad thing, but she's like bipolar. She like throws a temper tantrum because Mike is concerned for his sister's safety. If Vanessa knew about how dangerous this place was, since she did, why was she building a fort with this 8-year-old that she knows is in danger? Knows that she's in danger. Now, I guess you could argue that Vanessa was still torn at this point whether to help her father or Mike, and that could explain kind of why she acts the way she does. This could be viewed as the moment where Vanessa finally decides what side she's on, and like at the end when they leave the pizzeria, she's like, if you bring her back, I will shoot you. So I guess this could be the part of the film where she finally just decides she's not gonna work with her father anymore. She's gonna try to at least protect Abby. Maybe not Mike, but she's at least going to protect Abby. She knows whose side she's on now. And you know what? Thinking about it like that, honestly, makes the scene a lot better. And I didn't even mention that the fact that the springlock suit was like in the storage closet was a reference to, I think, the story 1:35 a.m. So yeah, they leave. Vanessa threatens to shoot Mike. Abby asks, why does everyone look at you like that? And so it's after this point that Mike decides, you know what, we should just give custody of Abby to the aunt. Abby gets mad because she basically signed her life away. I don't think that happened because it's never really explained what happened in that scene. I think it was just negotiation, really, at that point. But she gets angry. She scribbles out all his faces on all of her drawings. Mike leaves to go to the pharmacy to get more sleeping pills because Vanessa threw him out earlier. And he goes back. Mike goes back to sleep in order to be like, tell me right now who killed my brother. But instead, it's a completely different dream where his family is all happy and together. And the Golden Freddy kid's like, listen, man, give us what we want. And you can have this. And you can have everything you've ever wanted. The only thing that they ask for is Abby herself, because they want to, quote, make her like them. Mike unfortunately says yes in this moment, and the animatronics go with it. So, Golden Freddy, really cool part of the film, honestly, goes to Mike's house, kills the aunt who is still there, and brings Abby to the restaurant. But the only way they get there is Corey Kenshin, who is the cab driver, which was kind of a really silly scene. He wakes up in front of the Freddy whirring blade machine that's gonna cut his face all up. So Mike gets out, thankfully in the nick of time, because of course he was going to. And he's like, in a bit of a panic, he starts crawling backwards into... Did I even mention the Sparky and Shadow Freddy suits? I don't think I did. But yes, there's a Sparky animatronic and a Shadow Freddy animatronic. All of the 4 dead people that broke in and died, they're all there. 2 of them stuffed into suits, the rest are kind of just lying there. Mike notices that and immediately just gets out, runs. Mike starts trying to escape, but then he does get caught by Foxy, which then Vanessa finds him and brings him to like a police outpost and like fixes him up, bandages him up. And it's at this point where we really know like which side Vanessa is on. So it's in this scene where Vanessa reveals who the villain is, which is William Afton, Springtrap. Not Springtrap yet, but it is William Afton. She reveals that William Afton is the bad guy, the killer, the person who killed Mike's brother. Vanessa also reveals that she is William Afton's daughter. And I thought this scene was incredible. The music choice, the suspense they created, just his reveal was so awesome. So they gear up with tasers and shock sticks, and Mike goes to the pizzeria. Basically, there's just a fight. Mike electrocutes Bonnie and Freddy, who are on stage, as Chica is lifting Abby into the clown spring lock suit. Mike comes in and tases Chica. They run down the back hallway, and the goat, the cupcake, starts biting on Mike's leg. Mike kicks him away to grab the stick that he dropped, the electricity stick, and while he's doing that, the puppet literally just it starts flying across the screen. Mike electrocutes him out of the picture at this point. Now Abby's getting chased by Foxy. Amazing puppetry just all around. Foxy looks so good. Abby goes into the ball pit. Foxy is about to notice her in the ball pit when Vanessa electrocutes him, and he's out of commission. And just as this is happening, Mike runs into the main room where he hears footsteps coming from the main entrance. And what do you know? Big ol' Willie? Good old Willie comes out of the darkness in his Spring Bonnie suit. I don't actually know if it's considered Spring Bonnie. They just consider it Yellow Rabbit. Kind of like Yellow Bear. And oh my god, the voice they did with him and the way he laughs, it's just so menacing. He's also really strong. He knocks down Mike and then kicks him in the face, but instead of him just rolling over a little bit, he gets launched from that kick, which was kind of goofy, but I really liked it. William finally notices Vanessa. She's holding a gun to him, and he takes off the mask. Phenomenal reveal that it's Matthew Lillard, Steve Raglan from earlier. Just honestly phenomenal, because it explains so much of the way he was acting and what he was saying about the restaurant, the owner, and stuff like that. Vanessa shoots him, so he gets angry. They get into an altercation, and Vanessa is trying to stop William from hurting Abby, who is currently trying to thwart him by drawing a picture of the Yellow Rabbit killing the kids. She puts that picture up on the big wall of images and drawings, so the children finally know what actually happened to them, because they didn't throughout the film. And they see William for who he is. And did I mention Vanessa gets stabbed in the process? So the animatronics turn on William. Cupcake the goat jumps onto his torso and bites a chunk out of the suit, and the spring locks go off. Now the spring lock failure scene was not as gruesome as I think it should have been, because a lot of it was just the sound of metal punctures and just William going, not really the best way to do that scene, but I did still like it. The thing that they missed when it came to the spring lock suit is that the locks are all over the suit. In the arms, in the face, in the torso, legs. They only really showed the spring locks to be in the torso on William's costume and on the clown costume. They only show them to be kind of like ribs that fold inwards. So they really just made it seem like it was just his torso getting stabbed, when in the games it's technically a bunch of parts of his body getting impaled. I still think they did a very good job. They drag William off into a storage room, and Mike, Vanessa, and Abby leave as the building's collapsing. Vanessa's in the hospital, but Mike and Abby are just living their normal lives again. And then we cut to a really short scene of William Afton rotting in the suit in the storage room. Cut to credits, which had the biggest reaction from my audience of anything that happened in the film. If you haven't seen the film, Five Nights at Freddy's by The Living Tombstone. Never thought I would be in a theater and hear that song play. but I'm very happy that I did because that was a one-of-a-kind moment. I will add at the end kind of a theater reaction to that part. My friend did record some of the song and then the end credit scene, or the mid-credit scene with Corey, so I will show you guys that. But that was basically the plot. Yeah, I think the plot had some problems, the acting had some problems, but upon rewatching it a few times, just a few, I understand a lot more of the decisions, and honestly, it's just, it makes the movie better to me. Much more cohesive story than I thought at first. Very nice. Very nice 7.5 out of 10. Now, I guess since I went through the synopsis, I will tell you the problems I actually had with the plot itself and the way they presented it. Right off the bat, the first, I think 30 or so minutes before Mike actually gets to the restaurant are very, very fast paced. There's a lot of short scenes with a lot of stuff happening and a lot of world building very fast. That was kind of jarring, and it wasn't until like night 2 that I was really interested in the film. I just couldn't get into it because it was so fast. They were shooting so many things at me at once. Like, it was really cool seeing the Matt Pack cameo and like, the references to like FNAF World and Dream Theory and stuff. That was cool, but like the pacing was just not something to be desired from this film. I also didn't really like the lack of, specifically William Afton, because I just think Lillard did such an amazing job. I wish I saw more of him. And, you know, maybe what they added was, like, just enough. Maybe if he was there for any longer, I would have gotten sick of him. But I kind of wish we had more Afton in the film, because we're not going to see him alive again after this point, unless they do more flashbacks. But like, we're not going to see him the way he was in this film, at least again, which I kind of wish there was more of that. And also, speaking of Afton, the I always come back line wasn't good. They should not have put that in the film. I know it was a nice like reference, but I don't think that should have been in the film, like, at all. That's about it for the actual movie itself. Now I kind of want to talk theories and maybe where the next movies could go, because after seeing this movie, I honestly, it's hard to tell you where they could go with this, but I think in order to do that, we'll have to talk theories. So I guess a little story time. The very first theory or like thing I was looking up for this movie was, where in God's green earth does this take place? And, you know, the timing that I decided to look this up while I was watching the film was actually like kind of awful. So I noticed in the scene where Mike and Vanessa are talking by the stream, I noticed in the background that there were palm trees. So I'm like, okay, this movie was filmed in Louisiana, which does have palm trees, but I don't think this is where it takes place, like, based on their accents and like how Hurricane Utah was the book location. Like, I just didn't think that it took place in Louisiana, but I thought the palm tree was a good tell. And then in the scene after that, I noticed that the police car said GFPD. Okay, cool. So that's two things right there. So I look up what states have palm trees. Okay, cool. I was assuming it was somewhere near like New Mexico, Arizona area. So I looked in those states to see, is there a GFPD in any of those? No dice. So I start looking around and stuff, and I'm taking their accents into account. I'm like, oh, in Breaking Bad, they didn't talk very southern, so they wouldn't be in those real southern states, probably. Could be in Florida, but I don't think so, you know? I'm looking around. Turns out, in the scene, like, right before Mike and Vanessa talk, Abby forcefully opens a drawer, and it falls on the floor, and she finds the child custody papers, which literally has the state on them, Minnesota. So the movie takes place in Minnesota. I'm kind of annoyed, though, that I didn't think to look at the official documents, which is, I mean, that's my own fault. Like, that's kind of dumb of me, but still, you know. The palm tree really threw me off, man. There shouldn't be a palm tree there. They didn't think. But it turns out that was just an oversight that most people probably won't even notice. I did, though. Thought I had something going, but it turns out the movie doesn't even take place in a state that would have a palm tree in it. Another theory I have is, who is Garrett? I think this is a question that's probably going around the whole fan base right now. Is Garrett Golden Freddy? Is Garrett the puppet? Is Garrett some other mystery animatronic? Or is Garrett just not in the picture? And I don't think Garrett is the puppet. I feel like if Garrett was the puppet, we would have seen the puppet, and maybe the puppet is in the film. Like I said earlier, the puppet is not in that scene where Mike's shining his flashlight at Chica, but the puppet could be in another scene. Very well could be. That could be what the "come find me" quote at the end of the movie was about, the puppet. But I don't think Garrett's the puppet. I personally believe if Garrett is anybody, Garrett is going to be Golden Freddy. Now, I don't know if it's confirmed in the games, but I know in the books, Golden Freddy has 2 spirits in him. I don't know what their roles are within the actual robot, but I know that there's 2 souls in it. And if we go off of that, another thing that I noticed in the film is that there is not one scene, I think, where the kids' spirits, like the actual kids, appear next to the animatronics. There is the one Foxy scene where the kid shifts into Foxy, but they're never on screen at the same time. But in the house, when Golden Freddy kills the aunt, you have the young boy with the blonde hair who is Golden Freddy with Golden Freddy behind him. They're both shown in the same shot in the same scene. Now, that's not definitive proof. That's not something that I could just say, yeah, nope, that's it. That's why the theory is valid. I can't prove that. But it was something that I noticed when Golden Freddy was on screen in that scene, is that there was a kid in the scene, in the shot too. So I think if Garrett is anybody of the cast, I think Golden Freddy would make the most sense. Also because Golden Freddy is one of, if not the oldest of the animatronics, which very well could have been around when Garrett was killed. And I'm also seeing more on the Mike's family. I am seeing the theory that has to do with William Afton actually traveling to Nebraska to kidnap the child. And Nebraska and Minnesota, that's a travel. That's not an easy distance to go. There's a whole state between Minnesota and Nebraska. There's a whole state in between there. William Afton must have had a reason to go and kill this particular child. And people are claiming that they think Mike's dad is the Henry Emily equivalent, so the business partner to William Afton. And I'm going to be honest with you, that theory is terrible. For one reason and one reason only. I feel like Mike would have heard of Freddy's. And if Mike would have heard of Freddy's and his father worked at Freddy's, he would have heard about the kids getting killed. Because me personally, if my dad worked at a really well-known establishment, well-known for its children entertainment, I think I would know what it is. I think I would know where he works. Now, that very well could be the truth, but I don't think it holds a lot of weight. And people are saying, oh, the guy that's building the endoskeleton in the training tape could be that guy. It could be that guy. But newsflash, he looks like an average white dude. Just because the skin tones match and they both have a little bit of a beard going does not mean they're the same person. And that's why I don't think that theory holds up. But there was a reason. There must have been a reason why he stole that kid. I don't have an idea what it would be, though. I'm not that good of a theorist, guys. But I do want to talk about, though, another, not really a theory, but more of a connection between the in-game Afton family and the in-movie Schmidt family. So both families, the mother and father are out of the picture, all right? Of the children, there's an older brother and 2 younger siblings, a boy and a girl. In the photo, the family photo that is on Mike's nightstand by his bed in the movie, his brother is wearing a black and gray striped shirt, similar to the crying child. And I will be honest, I didn't notice that myself. I saw that on Twitter, so that's not something I came up with. If my theory is correct that Garrett is Golden Freddy, that's even more evidence that there's a major connection there. I personally believe Golden Freddy in the games has the crying child spirit in it, personally. Now, that might not be the case. I'll be honest, I have not brushed up on this lore in a very long time. Another thing, which is a stretch, I will admit, this is a stretch, but I feel like something that we could take note of is the animatronic that Chica was trying to put Abby into. Kind of clown-like. Not really clown-like, like fully, but it had like the rosy cheeks. It had a baby face. Baby, and Abby's name is an anagram for baby, which was like brought up well before even the trailers were out. That's another thing. Just the name Mike alone connects those other 2 characters together. I think there is a parallel between those 2 families, and people are also saying that this movie takes heavy inspiration from The Silver Eyes, which I'll be honest, I have not read. But I do think that the connections between the Afton family and the Schmidt family shouldn't go unnoticed, because I would not be surprised if Scott just decided for the movies, let's just use the Afton family's storyline, some of them, for the Schmidt family. Or that kid is the puppet. But like I said, if he was the puppet, I feel like he would have shown up in the film, at least in the background. So go look. I don't have Peacock. I can't watch this movie. And I guess off of my theories, what do I think the next film is going to be? I think the next film is going to be FNAF 3. And I think the protagonist will probably be... I don't know if it'll be Mike again. I feel like it might be Abby. Because I'm pretty sure in the timeline, FNAF 3 is like 20 to 30 years after the first game. That's a big time jump. So if there's gonna go kind of like the timeline in the game with Springtrap specifically, then that'll probably be like 15, 20 years down the line in universe. Maybe around our time. Maybe the next movie will take place in the present day. Which at that point, if they wanted to continue the Schmidt line, like storyline, then Abby would be the main character. I don't really know where they could go. I don't see them ever touching upon sister location, but please, I would love to be pleasantly surprised. I also don't think they will tackle Pizzeria Sim. It's just there's a lot to go through, and the amount of lore they actually incorporated into this movie was like very surface level stuff. There's a lot of things that they could add, but they did say it was a 3-picture deal, and after the way the movie played out, I could not tell you how the next movie is going to go, but I do think that it's going to be a FNAF 3 situation. If it is following, though, the book, The Silver Eyes, then we're in for a Twisted Ones book, movie then, right? Something like that. I might need to read up. Maybe after I read it, I will understand the film more. I don't want to keep you guys here any longer, I'll be honest, but, you know, I might do a stream where I just talk about the movie, because I couldn't get to everything in this one, but I'm not gonna go and make a separate video. No way. But I hope you guys enjoyed my review, analysis, breakdown, and theory sesh. My yapathon, as some might call it. Enjoy this clip of me at the movie. Me and my friends at the movie. And I will see you guys on the flip side. You like that one? You get it? It's Five Nights at Freddy. Thanks, guys. I'll see you later. Andrew.
Huh? Oh, wait.
No, not today. Alright. I said read the There's no lyrics, I can't really say.